I mean, Frankenstein is obviously racist. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. So, the second episode of the revival, reboot of Saved by the Bell on Peacock is called Clubs and Cliques. In this particular episode, I'll just say this off bat. One thing that I've already loved is that the OG series, each episode was almost like Law and Order. They were procedural. You could watch one and watch another, and they would have absolutely nothing to do with each other. Other than the only tying thread that sort of happened out throughout most of the series is that Zach and Kelly were together, were together or tried to be together. But outside of that, Zach would be with a different woman the next episode. Nothing really tied together. In this series, however, it appears that it is working as one long form story, which kudos. That's another thing that the writer sort of switched off from the original series, and I think that's the better case for it. So, with that said, this is the second day of Bayside. I didn't really go into it in the last video, but this is the second day where Daisy wanted to be class president, and in a way had that. She did get it, but she had that given to her by Mac and Lexi. They sort of didn't want the power of it anymore and sort of, in a dirtier way, took the onus or power from Daisy away, and but she still won it. And at the end of that, the principal, who does a really great job, does everything to tell her that, like, yeah, sometimes the way you get to getting a seat at the table may not be the cleanest, may not be the best, but you got a seat. So in this episode, it starts off with Daisy and Aisha excited and amped to be back and to go back to Bayside. One of them is the class president, Aisha, believing that her tryouts at football got her a wonderful, wonderful first spot at the quarterback. Needless to say, when you get there, comedy ensues and everything sort of changes. Daisy, when they first arrive, is greeted by, and this is one of the funniest intros before Say by the Bell, like the button of the intro comes in. She meets a group of well-intended PTA white women who, one of them actually last name is Joyce. Her first Joyce White Lady is her name, although it's said Whitley. It's White Lady. It's the way it's spelled. Hilarious. And I won't go into it, but there's an acronym for a group that they've created. But the group is basically trying to be there as allies to those who are less funded or less quote unquote educated or come from a harsher background. I'm not going to ruin the jokes because they're hilarious, but that is what happens there. And they all take that a certain, Daisy and Aisha take that a certain way, as they should. Basically, the premise of this episode, though, is that Mac and Daisy and Aisha and Jamie, who is Jesse Spano's son, they're both kind of going through this where they need to get to know each other a little bit better, and Aisha and Daisy see the better that is in both Jamie and Mac, and are trying to kind of get them to prove that they have more than just the superficial layer that we see at the front. We also have a B story where Devontae, as we saw at the end of the last episode, while he doesn't want to be a football player, he is a fantastic singer. Because of that, he gets the first chair or first spot on in the school musical. Uh, but he does not want to be a part of the clique that Lexi and the drama folks have. They have a group chat going that he hilariously keeps leaving throughout the entire day, and some very funny banter between Lexi and Devontae happen. Jokes that I don't want to mess up, jokes that I don't want to spoil, but I think this episode proved that it wasn't just a pilot that was funny. This show is hilarious, and has already in 2 episodes made me feel better about being a Saved by the Bell fan than I think I ever had before. There's a Todd Phillips joke that I think it's going to become a meme for all my ladies out there. This episode does a great job of also being strictly about the kids. Obviously, we have AC and Jesse there because they are actually at the school, but we don't get Zach or Kelly or anyone that's not a part of the day-to-day of school, which I think allows this show to sort of breathe and become a thing on its own, which is very important for these characters. Daisy's use of the timeout and the fourth wall breaking happens a little bit more in this episode, but they're using it sparingly, and they're using it at times where it's just like, yeah, I got to get this message across to my audience, and I think it's done very well. There was episode went out of its way to show that while Mac is a lot like Zach, to the T, he is very smart, sometimes too smart, and comes up with a scheme to get out of doing work that Daisy sort of put on his plate that wasn't supposed to be there, that he had already schemed his way out of, and he is still a schemer, just as much as a schemer as his dad. But um, it is clear that he can put forth an effort to do the work if he so chose to. And Daisy sort of tries to pull that out of him, and then he messes that all up with what feels like a heartfelt moment, but then he, he reverts back to Zach Morris mode by trying to get in everybody's pants. And that is who the Morris clan is, it feels like. And that's goes back to Zach Morris is trash. Mac Morris is not far from him. It is interesting that Jesse Spano has created a son that is so emotionally just all in his feelings. He looks like a jockey, but he's dumb as bricks, and it's fun because it's the counter of Jesse, who was very highly educated, also in her feelings, but super high educated. So it's going to be interesting if we ever get to see Jamie's dad, because somewhere there's a disconnect into what um, she is and what Jamie is. Devontae is still fantastic. He's mysterious, as one of the students said, but I'm excited to see what else he brings to the table besides just being mysterious. And as much as I thought I was going to hate her, Lexi is now starting to become one of my favorite characters because there's just some one-off lines and some stuff that you realize that she and Mac have been friends in the school for a long period of time, because they don't say much to each other in this episode, but there's an exchange where um, she's leaving the Max and he's coming into the Max, and they do like this high five thing that it seems like it's a throwaway, and it is, but it's so important to who they were, and you can tell that they probably dated, they've probably been friends, they've been a duo for so long that now all these new kids are coming in, and you're starting to see these new relationships branch off here and there. And it's fun to see Daisy and Mac just interact because they are so different, and they are kind of, they're just will they won't they, but it's not so much as dating, it's more so a matter of brains. Like, I just need you to respect me, and I need you to understand where I'm coming from. And I think somebody as privileged as Mac, it's going to be very hard for him to do that. uh, but I think if you keep beating it into him, maybe he'll get there. I'm excited to watch to see if that happens. There are some great lines. I don't want to mess it up, but I think one of the biggest things they wanted to say by the bell, uh, old school quotes, is that I think there were some articles or something that back in the day they referred to Zach Morris as Dennis the Menace, but sexy, and that gets brought back up in this series, and it made me like spit out my drink. That's how funny it is. This show is very clever, and it you can tell that there's a writer's room full of people who are just sitting on history of Saved by the Bell, and they pull it out anytime that they possibly can. AC Slater's list of women or conquests doesn't look so good today. But I'm having a blast with this series. It's been so good so far. I'm only 2 episodes in. Again, I hope to plan to put up another 2 reviews tomorrow to kind of talk about the next 2 episodes. But I'm all in. What are you guys thinking about it? Have you watched the first 2 episodes? What are your thoughts on Clubs and Cliques? Go ahead and leave your comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast by the same name that is on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. We also have a sister podcast called You Can't Do That Anymore. We talk about classic films and rate whether what they did in the past would be acceptable versus what we can get away with today. It's interesting because that sort of fits what the Saved by the Bell is sort of doing as a redo. There are some things that I don't know if they could have gotten away with back in the day, but the series is doing a really good job of bringing it to a modern day without being overly preachy, but hitting home on the messages that they need to. But like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.